Okay, the following is the diagram shows sketches of four functions f of x, g of x, h of x, and k of x. Okay, and what we got to find out is which one is which. Now, what we know automatically right away is that f of x, I'm just going to multiply f of x out for a second, and that's going to be x squared minus x cubed. G of x will be just a bit more complicated to multiply out. It's going to be 2x squared minus x cubed plus 2 minus x. I'm just going to arrange them according to power. Minus x cubed plus 2x squared plus 2 minus x. Okay, there we are h of x, which is multiply x by x minus 1, we get x squared minus x. We're going to multiply this x squared minus x by x minus 2. Now we'll see what happens here. So what do we get? X cubed minus 2x squared minus x squared minus 2x. And that's going to be x cubed minus 3x squared minus 2x. And finally, what's a k of x, is it? K of x is a similar deal. It's going to be x cubed minus x squared plus 1x minus 1. Now, you might ask me, why did I actually multiply them out? I multiplied them out to see about the shape of them. Okay, so if you just indulge me for 1 second here. When a cubic function has an a value bigger than 0, the max comes before the min. When the x cubed function is negative, the number that comes from the x cubed is negative, the minimum comes before the maximum. Now, once we've established this, okay, what we can then say is that we'll just drag that down for a second. Alright, now we can look at this. We're expecting f of x for what to happen. F of x is going to be 1 where the minimum comes before the maximum. Like that. This one here is also minus x cubed. Minimum comes before maximum. H of x, maximum comes before minimum. And k of x, maximum comes before minimum. I've already narrowed down each choice. Okay? Now, we're going to look at the two of them that the minimum comes before the maximum. So this is min and max, and this one here is min and max. Now, what I can do next is, a cubic function is exactly the same as a quadratic function, and I'll show you why. If I solve f of x equals to 0, what does that mean? It means where it crosses the axis, where it crosses the x-axis, where the y value is 0. Look what happens. X squared bracket 1 minus x equals 0. This means x squared equals 0. Which means x equals 0. Look there, x equals 0. And then the next one's going to be 1 minus x equals 0. X therefore is 1. Oh, that makes sense. 0 being here, 1 to the right. This would mean that this function here is f of x. Let's go down to the next one, which is, sorry guys, the next one is number 4. And number 4, I'm predicting g of x to be number 4, haven't I? Because it's also a negative x cubed function. Now let's have a close look at g of x. G of x says, so I replace that with g. G of x says x squared plus 1 equals and 2 minus x. Let's solve g of x equal to 0. When g of x equals 0, it means x squared plus 1 equals 0. This means x squared equals minus 1. Is there any answers for x squared equals minus 1? No. That means it doesn't cross the x-axis. See that? It doesn't cross the x-axis twice, because 2 of the answers aren't defined. That's why it's not down here, giving you 2 answers. It's actually further up. Okay? The next one is 2 minus x equals 0. X equals 2. That represents that part there. The x equals 2. So now I've matched up that part 4 is g of x. Okay? Then we're going to go again. And what's happened next is we now know what g of x is. And we know what, what's the other one? f of x. F of x is 1, f of x is 2, g of x is 4. Let's look at h of x. H of x ends up to be x bracket x minus 1 bracket x minus 2. When I put h of x equals 0, it means x equals 0, x equals 1, x equals 2 when you solve it. And look at that one, 0, 1 and 2. That means that this one here most definitely is h of x. And then by the powers of deduction you know that k of x must be this one here. But once again we'll prove it. Okay, so k of x, okay. Now k of x is x squared plus 1 x minus 1. And what we can prove here is that when k of x equals 0, what we're going to get is x squared plus 1 equals 0 or x minus 1 equals 0. We know that x equals 1. That accounts for this part here. Can we solve x squared equals minus 1? No. Therefore, it doesn't cross the other two times. And that's why, that's the explanation here. This point here doesn't cross the axis twice. Alright, any questions about that? Continuing on, part 30, question 32. Okay. Factorize x cubed minus 4x and hence solve the equation x cubed minus 4x equals 0. X cubed minus 4x is the same thing as x into x squared minus 4. X squared minus 4 is the difference of two squares, which makes it x plus 2, x minus 2. That's the answer to the factorized part. Now I'm on the solve part. Solve it would mean x bracket x plus 2 bracket x minus 2 equals 0. And as stated earlier, either the first number equals 0, the second number equals 0, or the third number equals 0. And that'll mean x is 0, x is minus 2, and x equals plus 2. Next thing it's going to ask me is to graph the function, this function here, in the domain minus 3 less than x less than or equal to 3. Going to do, go straight to the calculator, table mode. I'm going to put in x cubed. X cubed. And once I've done x cubed, what's next is minus 5x. So I'll just change that to a minus 5. And then find the last part's plus 2. Now, start is minus 3. End is 3. Step 1. Here's my graph. Okay. Now, in this graph, guys, okay, can you determine do you know what the shape of the graph is going to be? Which one comes first, the maximum or the minimum? Maximum comes before minimum. And it should actually tell you, when you go through it, it should actually tell you that this is the case. So look what's happening, okay? You can read it by the numbers even. So what's happening is it's going 10, 4 and 6. It's on its way up. Then all of a sudden it goes back down to 2. It's undergone its maximum because it was at its highest, now it's dropping underneath. It drops again to minus 2 and then goes back up to 0, which means it's now undergone its minimum. It's on its way back up. And then it just keeps going upwards for the rest. Alright? Now that you've known that, you're going to draw this graph, okay? What do you have to do to obtain full marks with this question though? You have to write out a full table. You have to write down f of minus 3, f of minus 2, all the way down to f of plus 3. You got to write in all the numbers. So you're going to have to write minus 3 cubed, minus 5 times minus 3, and then there's a plus 2 at the end. And then you have to write down what the answer is, and the answer for the first one is going to be minus 10. Is everybody aware that you have to do that all the way down for each one to obtain full marks? Okay, now that you're aware of that, what we're going to do next is we're going to draw this graph out. So file new. Can somebody call me out the equation, please? What's the equation? Y equals x cubed minus 4x. 5x, is it? 5x. 5x plus 2. Okay, here's my graph here. Okay, and what we can say, how far do I have to go with this graph? From minus 3 to? 3. Sorry? 3. Minus 3 to 3, okay? Okay, so what happens here is there's my graph there, okay, and what happens is I'm going to just take a snapshot of this now. Okay, so here it is here, and I'll just get my, okay, this one here, and what we can see here is this point here, okay, so we have this graph here, and then here it is here. Now, what we're going to know, once we've drawn this graph, okay, and the graph is drawn here, we just want to make sure that our actual points match up. So -3 minus 10 is here. What's that going to be? It's going to be -2, 4, which is roughly here. It's going to be 0 and 2. 0 and 2 is correct. And then it's going to be 2, 0, correct? So we know we have the correct graph here when we draw it out. Okay, now that we've done that, what the question asks is, from your graph, estimate 3 values. The next one is this, guys. So, lads, we have to figure out when the value is equal to 0. So look at this, guys, okay? Value is equal to 0. Look at this. This one here is 0. This one here is 0. And this one here is 0. So look what happens. So it says, find the 3 values of x for which f of x equals 0. So when f of x equals 0, the answer is going to be -2.5 roughly. So x equals -2.5. This one here, what did you say, about 0.33, 0.4 somewhere?
0.3.
So go for 0.3, and the other one is x equals 2. The next thing we're asked to do is we're then asked to find out the values for which x equals 2. Okay, so find out the values for which f of x equals 2. Now f of x equals 2, I have to put a line around where I think 2 should be. 2.5 will be there, which means 2 will just be a tiny bit underneath. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of the top one if I can. Just that one there. Okay, now I have to find out where it hits on the axis. So it hits at -2.4 and I suppose 2.3, and x equals -2.3, x equals 0, oh so not 0, yeah. Well it should be 0, x equals 2.3. Now, they're going to ask us, estimate 3 values of x for which f of x equals 2, and hence estimate root 5, given a reason for your answer. Okay, lads, root 5, if I put it into the calculator, what is root 5 in the calculator? Root 5 in the calculator is either plus 2.2 or minus 2.2. You notice I have plus 2.3 and minus 2.3. Why did this happen is what we're asking. Now, f of x equals x cubed minus 5x plus 2. We were told that f of x equals 2. Now all of a sudden the 2's cancel on both sides, and we have x cubed minus 5x equals 0. What we then have here is we factorize out x, and we have x squared minus 5 equals 0. The answers to this question are x equals 0. We're expecting x equals 0, aren't we? That one there. And now the other two answers are x squared minus 5 equals 0, x squared therefore equals 5, x squared therefore, x is therefore equal to plus or minus the square root of 5. And your explanation is, since the algebraic answers for this is x equals plus root 5 or minus root 5, the graphical answers must be the same. Therefore, minus 2.3 and plus 2.3 must be a graphical representation of plus or minus root 5. Okay? And that's